My child, stop right now. This is not for everyone. This is only for you and me. I have stepped into your moment on purpose. I have stopped you mid-scroll, mid-thought, even mid-breath, because what I am about to speak cannot be mixed with noise. This is not a crowd moment. There is no audience watching. There is no one else listening in. Right now, it is just you and me, face to face, heart to heart, and I need you to understand how rare and sacred this is. This moment was written before time, long before your fears had names, long before your questions formed, long before you became tired of trying to be strong. I saw this exact second. I knew where you would be, what you would be carrying, and how close you would be to giving up on listening. And still, I waited. I waited for this precise moment when your heart would be quiet enough, vulnerable enough, and open enough to hear me without defenses. That is why you are here. Not by chance, not by habit, not because you were looking for something spiritual. You are here because I brought you here. Listen carefully now. This message is not motivational. It is not general. It is not something meant to inspire a crowd or be shared carelessly. It cannot be repeated because it was formed around you. Your story, your wounds, your questions, your future. This message exists because you exist. If you were not alive, these words would not be necessary. That is how personal this is. I am not speaking in broad ideas. I am speaking directly to your soul. I need you to know something very important. I waited for this exact second. I did not rush it. I did not send these words earlier, and I will not send them later in the same way. Timing matters when love is involved. Timing matters when destiny is involved. You may feel like your life had been paused, delayed, or unclear, but heaven has not been confused. Heaven hath been precise. Every step, every pause, every ache brought you here, to this moment where I can finally speak without interruption. Do not ignore this. Do not tell yourself you will come back later. Ignoring this moment will not leave things the same. Neutral does not exist here. You either receive what I am placing in front of you, or you walk away from something that cannot be recreated in the same way. I am not saying this to threaten you. I am saying this because truth matters. Some moments carry weight, and this is one of them. Heaven orchestrated this meeting. Angels were not guessing. This was not random alignment. I arranged circumstances, delays, even distractions so that you would land right here. You may not understand how much effort went into bringing you to this exact point, but I do. And I do not waste divine appointments. When I stop you like this, it is because something must be said now, not later. I see the fear trying to rise in you. That familiar tightness. That urge to pull back. Let me remove that fear and replace it with closeness. You are not in trouble. You are not being judged. You are not being tested. You are being invited. There is a difference. Fear tells you to hide. Love tells you to come closer. And I am asking you to come closer right now. This is not about religion. It is not about rules, performance, or proving anything. It is not about noise, crowns, labels, or systems. Strip all of that away for a moment. This is about you and me. Not the version of you that pretends to be fine. Not the version of you that others see. The real you. The tired you. The questioning you. The hopeful you that still exists even after disappointment. That is who I am speaking to. Something irreversible begins the moment you truly listen. Not when you finish these words, but when your heart opens instead of protecting itself. When you stop analyzing and start receiving. When you allow yourself to believe, even a little, that I am speaking directly to you. Inner shifts happen before outer changes. Seeds take root before anything breaks the surface. And right now, something is being planted that will not leave you the same. This is about you and me and no one else. Not the past that shaped you. Not the people who hurt you. Not the expectations placed on you. Those things do not get a voice here. Only you and me. That is why this feels different. That is why your attention feels pulled. That is why part of you knows this matters even if you cannot explain why. This moment cannot be repeated. Not because I will stop loving you, but because moments like this come wrapped in specific timing, specific readiness, and specific grace. You were meant to hear this now, not before, not later. Now, when your heart is soft enough to feel and strong enough to endure truth. Now, when you are tired of shallow answers and quiet enough to hear something deeper. What happens next will change everything, not because life will suddenly become easy, but because you will not walk it the same way anymore. Awareness changes direction. Truth changes posture. Closeness changes courage. You will begin to see differently, respond differently, choose differently, because something within you has shifted. Stay here with me. Do not rush. Do not multitask. Let this moment finish what it started. You are not alone. You never were. And this conversation is only beginning. Comment Amen. I receive your blessings today if you're claiming God's promises over your life. My child, there was a time when it felt like it was just you and me. Do you remember it? A time when the world felt quieter, even if life around you was not. A time when your heart would soften the moment you thought of me. You did not need many words then. Sometimes you sat in silence. Sometimes tears came without warning. Sometimes longing filled your chest so deeply that you could not explain it. But you knew I was there. And you felt close to me. I remembered those moments clearly. I remember when you spoke to me honestly, without rehearsing your words, without trying to sound strong or faithful. You spoke from where you were, not from where you thought you should be. I remember when you prayed in whispers, when your faith felt simple and alive, when believing did not feel like effort. You did not analyze every feeling. You did not question every thought. You simply came to me, and I came to you. There were moments when silence itself felt holy, when you did not ask for anything but just stayed, when your tears were not panic but release, when your heart opened easily and trust flowed naturally. You did not need proof. You did not need explanation. You sensed my presence, and that was enough. Faith felt real then, not because life was easy, but because closeness made things lighter. I want you to know this clearly. I treasure those moments. They were not small to me. They were not temporary emotions or fragile phases. They were real connection. They were truth. And they still matter. Nothing about that closeness was imagined. Nothing about it was false. It was you responding to me freely, before fear and noise learned how to interrupt. You may wonder now why that closeness faded. You may feel sadness when you remember how near I once felt. You may question yourself, wondering what you did wrong or where you failed. Hear me with tenderness now. I am not blaming you. I am not disappointed in you. I understand what happened, And I want you to understand it too, without shame. Life did not pull you away all at once. It happened slowly. Responsibilities grew. Disappointments accumulated. Questions multiplied. You learned to protect yourself. You learned to be strong. You learned to manage instead of surrender. And always crept in quietly, not always loud, but constant. Thoughts filled the spaces where silence once lived. Worry replaced stillness. Pressure replaced rest. And intimacy began to feel harder, not because I withdrew, but because your heart became tired. You did not stop loving me. You did not stop believing. You became busy surviving. You carried weight you were never meant to carry alone. You told yourself you would return to stillness when life calmed down. You told yourself closeness could wait. And slowly, the simple connection you once had felt distant, not because it disappeared, but because it was crowded out. I want you to hear this with clarity and peace. I never moved away. I did not step back. I did not grow silent out of anger. I did not replace you with someone else. I remained where I have always been. The distance you felt was not my absence. It was your exhaustion. It was your overload. It was your heart trying to keep up with too much at once. Even when you stopped noticing me, I noticed you. Even when prayer felt forced or empty, I stayed near. Even when silence felt uncomfortable instead of comforting, I remained patient. Love does not leave when attention fades. Love waits. And I have been waiting, not with disappointment, but with open arms. Please support our channel. Our work is to bring happiness and devotion to God into your life. If you wish, you can kindly show your support by donating through Super Thanks. Those moments you remember were not meant to belong only to the past. They were foundations, not highlights. They showed you what connection feels like when trust is simple and love is uncluttered. And I am reminding you of them now because that closeness can be restored. Not by recreating the past, but by returning to presence. You do not need to become who you were then. You are not meant to undo growth or erase what life has taught you. I am not asking you to feel the same emotions or repeat the same routines. I am asking you to come as you are now, with everything you have learned, everything you carry, everything you question. Intimacy deepens when honesty replaces effort. I am rebuilding the emotional foundation of our relationship right now. Not with pressure, not with rules, not with guilt. With remembrance. With tenderness. With truth. You do not have to perform closeness. You only have to allow it. You do not have to force faith. You only have to be present. Let go of the idea that something was lost forever. Nothing real between us was destroyed. It was covered by noise, not erased. And noise can be quieted. Hearts can soften again. Silence can become safe again. Trust can return, not as innocence, but as depth. I am still here. I always was. And now, once again, it is just you and me. My child, and know how heavy your heart has felt. Not just tired, not just worn down, but heavy in a way that sleep does not fix and rest does not reach. You wake up carrying a weight you cannot name, and you go to sleep with it still pressing on you. You have learned how to function with it, how to smile through it, how to keep moving even when something inside you feels sore and bruised. But I see it. I have always seen it. There is a sadness you rarely admit, even to yourself. It is not always loud. Sometimes it is quiet and steady, like a low ache that never fully leaves. You do not talk about it much because you do not want to burden others. You tell yourself that other people have it worse, that you should be grateful, that you should be stronger by now. So you tuck that sadness away and keep going. But my child, just because you hide it well does not mean it is small. You have felt misunderstood in ways that cut deeply. People hear your words but miss your heart. They see what you do but not how much it costs you to do it. You long to be truly seen, not admired, not praised, just understood. There were moments when you wanted someone to ask how you really were and stay long enough to hear the answer. When that did not happen, you learned to stay quiet, and silence became another weight you carried. You have also felt unseen, even when surrounded by people. You showed up, you helped, you listened, you cared, yet you felt invisible. You wondered if anyone noticed how much effort it took just to be present. A kind of loneliness does not come from being alone. It comes from feeling emotionally disconnected while still showing up every day. I know how deeply that hurts. Let me explain something gently now. What you have been carrying is not just physical tiredness. It is spiritual weight. Physical tiredness comes from doing too much. Spiritual weight comes from carrying things that were never meant to rest on your soul. You have been holding worries, expectations, responsibilities, and fears that should have been placed in my hands. Not because you did not trust me, but because you felt you had to hold everything together. You told yourself that if you let go, things might fall apart. You believed that being strong meant handling things on your own. So you kept going, even when your heart asked for rest. Over time, that constant carrying created heaviness. Not because you were failing, but because you were human. You were doing what you thought was necessary to survive. The cost of carrying things alone is high, my child. It slowly drains joy. It dulls hope. It makes prayer feel like effort instead of refuge. It makes silence uncomfortable because that is where the weight becomes most noticeable. This is where your heart has felt heavy. Not because you are broken, not because you are faithless, but because you were never meant to walk this way by yourself. I want to replace guilt with compassion right now. You have judged yourself harshly for feeling this way. You have told yourself you should be over it by now. You have wondered why your faith did not make everything lighter. But hear me clearly, you were never weak. Feeling heavy does not mean you failed. It means you have been strong for too long without rest. Strength is not the absence of emotion. Strength is not ignoring pain. True strength is knowing when to stop carrying what is not yours to hold. And I am inviting you into that kind of strength now. The kind that rests. The kind that trusts. The kind that releases. I have watched you carry burdens quietly. I have seen you push forward when your heart wanted to sit down and cry. I have seen you choose responsibility over rest, others over yourself, endurance over honesty. And I do not look at you with disappointment. I look at you with compassion. I see someone who cared deeply, who tried hard, who did not want to give up. You were never weak. You were tired. You were overloaded. You were stretched thin by life and expectations and the pressure to keep going. And still you showed up. Still you loved. Still you hoped, even when hope felt fragile. That matters more than you know. And now, my child, I am asking you to let me carry what you no longer can. Not later. Not when you feel ready. Now, you do not need to explain everything. You do not need to justify your exhaustion. Simply allow me into the places you have guarded. Allow me into the heaviness. Allow me into the sadness you rarely name. You are safe to rest here. You are safe to be honest here. You do not have to prove anything to me. You do not have to earn relief. You do not have to be strong right now. Let me be strong for you. As you begin to release what you have been holding, the heaviness will not vanish all at once, but it will begin to lift. Breathing will feel easier. Your thoughts will sow. Your heart will soften. This is not weakness. This is healing beginning. Remember this, and let it settle deep inside you. You were never weak. You were carrying too much alone. And you do not have to do that anymore. I am here, and I am not going anywhere. My child, there are things you have carried inside that you never said out loud. Questions you pushed down because you were afraid of what they might mean. Thoughts you silenced because you did not want to seem ungrateful, faithless, or weak. But I know them all. I heard them when they formed in your heart before you forced yourself to think of something else. Nothing you have wondered has ever shocked me. Nothing you have questioned has ever pushed me away. There were moments when you asked quietly, "Am I really enough?" You did not say it to anyone. You barely admitted it to yourself. But it lingered in the background of your thoughts. You wondered if you were too flawed, too slow, too inconsistent to truly matter. You compared yourself to others and felt like you were always falling short in ways you could not fix. My child, hear me now. That question did not come from truth. It came from weariness. And weariness distorts perception. You also wondered about your purpose. You asked, "Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing with my life?" You saw others seem so sure, so driven, so confident, while you felt unsure and behind. You questioned whether you missed something important, whether you took a wrong turn that put you permanently off course. You feared that maybe your life was meant to be smaller than you hoped. I saw that fear, and I never despised you for it. There were doubts you felt ashamed of. Doubts about me. Doubts about whether I was really listening. Doubts about whether prayer actually mattered. You felt guilty for having those thoughts, so you tried to push them away quickly. You told yourself that faithful people do not think like that. But my child, faithful people do think like that sometimes. Struggle does not cancel belief. Questions do not cancel love. You feared the future in ways you rarely admitted. Not dramatic fears, but quiet ones. Fear of being alone. Fear of never becoming who you hoped you would be. Fear of looking back one day and realizing you survived, but never truly lived. You worried about time slipping away. You worried about making the wrong choices. You worried that hope might rise again only to be disappointed. Those fears sat heavy in your chest, even when you tried to stay positive. Let me respond to each of these gently, not with correction, but with truth. You are enough not because of what you achieve, but because you are mine. Your worth was never something you were meant to earn. It was spoken over you before you ever took a breath. You do not become valuable through perfection. You are valuable because I chose you. Flaws do not disqualify you. They make room for grace. Say amen. Jesus is my everything if he is your joy, peace, and strength. Your purpose has never been lost. You have not missed it. You have not ruined it. Purpose is not a single fragile moment that disappears if you choose wrong ones. Purpose unfolds through relationship, not pressure. Every season you walked through taught you something you needed. Even the detours shape you. I can weave meaning from every part of your story. Nothing was wasted. Your doubts do not scare me. They do not offend me. I would rather you bring them into the light than bury them under forced faith. Honest doubt opens the door to deeper trust. Silence builds walls. When you hide your questions, they grow heavier. When you bring them to me, they soften. I am not threatened by your honesty. I welcome it. Your fears about the future do not mean you lack faith. They mean you care deeply. You want your life to matter. You want your choices to mean something. That desire itself came from me. Fear becomes harmful only when it keeps you silent and still. When you bring it to me, it loses its power to control you. I want you to understand this clearly. You are not broken for struggling. You are human. You live in a world that demands certainty while offering very little of it. Of course, questions arise. Of course, fear whispers. Of course, you wonder if you are doing enough or becoming enough. That does not mean you are failing. It means you are growing. I normalize this struggle because I walked among humanity. I know what it is to feel misunderstood. I know what it is to carry unseen weight. I know what it is to pray in anguish. I do not stand far above your experience. I step into it. That is why you can trust me with what you never said out loud. You do not need to clean your thoughts before bringing them to me. You do not need to sort out your doubts first. Bring them as they are. Let honesty replace hiding. Let truth replace pretending. This is how trust deepens, not through perfect belief, but through real relationship. Trust grows when you realize you do not have to perform faith for me. I am not impressed by polished words. I am moved by open hearts. When you finally let yourself say what you have been afraid to say, something shifts inside you. The weight lessens. The fear loosens. The distance you felt begins to close. My child, I already know everything you have wondered. Nothing needs to stay unspoken between us. You are safe to be real with me. You are safe to question. You are safe to admit fear. And as you do, trust will grow quietly, steadily, deeply, because you will finally experience what it feels like to be fully known and still fully loved. You do not walk forward alone. You never have. And now, you no longer have to walk in silence either. My child, there were moments when no one else saw you, but I did. Moments when the room was full yet your heart felt empty. Moments when laughter surrounded you, but you felt separate, like you were watching life from behind glass. You wondered why connection felt so distant, why understanding seemed just out of reach. You told yourself to be grateful, to be strong, to not complain. And so you carried loneliness quietly, believing it was safer to hide it than to explain it. You became skilled at appearing strong in front of others. You learned how to smile at the right moments, how to answer "I'm fine" without hesitation, how to keep conversations light when your heart felt heavy. You did not want to worry anyone. You did not want to seem needy. You did not want to be the one who always needed support. So you showed up composed, capable, steady, even when something inside you was breaking. And while others admired your strength, they did not see the cost of it. There were nights when you finally allowed yourself to cry. Alone. Quietly. You cried into pillows so no one would hear. You wiped your tears quickly in case someone walked in. Sometimes you cried without knowing exactly why. But tears came from accumulation, not one moment, but many. Disappointments laid on disappointments. Unspoken grief stacked on silent fear. You cried because holding it together all day left no strength for the night. In those moments when you felt most alone, I was there. Not as a distant observer, not watching from afar, but close. Closer than you realized. I sat with you in the quiet. I felt the ache in your chest. I knew the thoughts racing through your mind as you stared into the dark. You may have felt abandoned, but you were never alone. Even when you could not feel me, I was present. Every tear you cried was collected. None were wasted. None fell unnoticed. You did not cry in vain. Each tear carried a story, a weight, a prayer, even when no words were spoken. I understood what each one meant. I knew which tears came from loss, which came from exhaustion, which came from longing to be understood. And I did not rush you to stop. I did not tell you to be stronger. I let you cry because release is not weakness, is honesty. You needed someone to see you, not the version you show the world, but the real you, the tired you, the hurting you, the one who kept going even when it hurt. I saw that version of you long before anyone else did. I saw you when you felt overlooked. I saw you when your efforts went unnoticed. I saw you when your kindness was taken for granted. I saw you when you questioned whether anyone would notice if you stopped trying so hard. My child, I want to validate your pain, not minimize it. What you felt was real. Loneliness hurts deeply, especially when you are surrounded by people. Being strong all the time is exhausting. Crying alone leaves marks on the heart that do not fade quickly. You were not imagining it. You were not being dramatic. You were responding to real emotional need that went unmet for too long. There were moments when you wished someone would ask how you really were and stay long enough to hear the answer. Moments when you wanted permission to rest, to fall apart, to be held instead of holding everything together. You may have felt guilty for wanting that, telling yourself you should be grateful for what you had. But longing for connection does not mean you are ungrateful. It means you were created for relationship. I was present in every moment you thought you were invisible. When you sat quietly while others talked around you. When you helped everyone else but felt no one helping you. When you gave encouragement while needing it yourself. I saw you. I honored those moments. Even when no one thanked you. Even when no one acknowledged the effort it took just to be there. You may have wondered why I did not remove that loneliness sooner. Why I did not send someone at the exact moment you needed them. Hear me with compassion now. I was working in ways you could not see. I was shaping your heart to recognize depth. I was teaching you the difference between being surrounded and being connected. I was preparing you to value real presence, including mine, in a way that would last. You are not unseen now. You never were. You were held in moments when you felt forgotten. You were comforted even when you felt empty. You were loved even when you doubted your worth. And now, I want you to feel this truth settle inside you. I see you fully. I see the strength it took to survive quietly. I see the courage it took to keep showing up. I see the tenderness you protected even when life tried to harden you. Let this awareness change how you see yourself. You were not weak for crying alone. You were not broken for feeling lonely. You were responding honestly to pain. And I was responding with presence. Even when you could not sense me, I was there, steady, patient, attentive. As you sit with these words now, let yourself feel seen, not rushed, not judged, not analyzed, just seen. You do not have to explain yourself here. You do not have to justify your feelings. I already understand. And as you allow yourself to receive this truth, something inside you will soften. The loneliness will lose its grip. The memory of being unseen will be replaced with the certainty that you were never alone. You are seen now. You always were, and you always will be. My child, this message exists now because timing is not accidental in my kingdom. I do not speak when it is convenient. I speak when it is necessary. I do not arrive early to impress, and I do not arrive late to apologize. I arrive when hearts are ready and when moments can still be redeemed. And this moment, right now, is exactly that. Not a second sooner, not a moment later. It could not have come earlier because you were not yet who you needed to be to receive it. Earlier, you were still learning how to survive. You were learning how to endure disappointment, how to stand after loss, how to keep going when answers did not come. If I had spoken this message to you then, it would have sounded like noise or pressure. You might have heard the words, but you would not have understood their weight. You were still becoming. You were still being shaped. Your heart was still learning how to listen without fear. Earlier, you needed protection more than clarity. You needed shelter more than instruction. You needed to learn that you could survive pain without losing yourself. So I waited. Not because I was distant, but because I was careful. Love does not rush what can be harmed by being revealed too soon. Some truths require depth to hold them. And depth is formed over time, through experience, through struggle, through quiet endurance. That is what you were building without realizing it. But it also cannot come later. This message cannot wait for a more comfortable season or a calmer moment. If it came later, hesitation would harden into habit. Questions would turn into resignation. You would begin to accept things that were never meant to be permanent. I will not allow that. I love you too much to let delay become your identity. There are moments when waiting protects you, and moments when waiting costs you. This is one of those moments where delay would steal more than it saves. This is why you feel the urgency gently pressing on your heart now. Not panic, not fear, but awareness. Something inside you knows this matters. You may not fully understand why yet, but you can sense that this moment is different. That is alignment beginning. When heaven and your heart start to agree, clarity rises quietly. Divine timing is not about clocks and calendars. It is about readiness meeting purpose. And right now, those two things have met in you. This exact version of you had to exist for this message to land the way it needs to. Not the younger you who hoped easily but broke quickly. Not the older you who might grow cautious and closed. It is you. The one who has felt pain but is still open. The one who have been disappointed but still listening. The one who knows what it is to be tired, yet still longing for something real. Right, amen. I trust your word completely if Scripture is your anchor and guide. And share this video